The demo tonight is going to be making a duck or a bird. Oops. Turn that around. Oh, anyway. I first saw this on YouTube, of course. And this is the first one I made. And the guy that was making them, he thought that you needed to have a perfectly round head if you could make a perfect sphere. And he had it on a pedestal like this and had the beak sitting out there and lined the beak up with the center line of the body. So that was the first one I made. Well, then I decided I wanted to do something a little different. So now we go to another one. Well, I made the beak flatter, make it look more like a duck. I still have it on the pedestal. I've got a couple rings like a mallard might have around the neck. And I liked the head to look more, to me, natural, like a duck head, rather than, I don't know if we can get that where you can see it, as opposed to that perfectly round circle. You can also, if you want more of a chick or a regular bird, you can use a pointed beak, more like that one.
Look to your right instead of your left. The other cameras don't have it.
Okay.
For you.
Okay. And then I have some friends that live down in Florida that kayak a lot, and so I wanted to make something for them that reminds them of their kayaking. So they see a lot of egrets or something like this. So elongated the legs, elongated the neck, nice long beak, and turned a tenon on the bottom of the legs so that I could make a separate base for it to sit in. So as you can see from that, there's all kinds of different things you can do and changes you can make to make them much more personal. You don't have to make it exactly like someone else did. So any questions there? Okay. Long. Why don't you pass a couple of those around? Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to start with a blank that I've already turned around to save time. I also turned a tenon on the end because this is multi-axis, and I'm going to do it off-axis first, and then to finish the bottom part of the bird, you have to have it on centers again, and the only way to really do that is to put it in a chuck. And you want to make sure you put the tenon on now, because once you've turned the head and it's off center, you can't get it between centers to turn the tenon on there.
How do you know
that? I think you can probably guess how I know that. So how do you decide how you're going to do some of these things? If you just spend a little bit of time looking at your blank, you can do some different things. Some blanks, depending on where you've cut it out of the wood, has grain that runs more or less parallel to each other. So you can orient it, put the head this way so that the grain lines run back and forth. It's more of a feather, the way the feathers run, that kind of thing. Or you can turn it sideways and the grain runs across, or especially if the grain is curved, you can do the same sort of thing. Let me cover that one up. So you can have the head, and you can move it so that you can have the grain running more across. And sometimes that's a nice effect too. The ones I sent around here, you might be able to see that on those. And you could do it either that way or this way. And like I said, it just takes a few minutes to look at your blank to decide, and it does make a difference. If you had this off to an edge like that, it looks funny. If you can see the grain, it just doesn't look right for a bird.
You're saying more the curved grain, you want to have it going across. The other, that straight grain, you could do it either way.
Yeah, and it's whichever way you think looks better or what you like. Oh, let's start with this one. Then if you have a piece of wood where, well, let's see, where you've got contrast in the grain, more like something like this duck is. Again, you can orient it and put your head there. If you want the head to be dark and the back to be more light, or more commonly, the way I would do it, is to have the head light, but again, you want it to be symmetrical with your grain lines. Again, you don't want it sitting off to the side like that. So you want it, like I said, kind of symmetrical. If it ends up where the back of the head is darker, that doesn't matter. A lot of birds are that way, especially some ducks and things. So, like I said, it just takes a couple minutes to look at your end grain and decide where you want to put that head. Now, as I was doing that tall bird there, I wanted the head to sit out in front of the body a little bit if I could. And I don't know if you can.
So is that a triple access then on that one? Or just
This is just the two. I've tried other ones where I might have to do a triple kind of thing. But in order to get it, if you turn it round, the head can't be in front of the body because it's got to be oriented like that. But if you leave it square, now I can put the head out of here and turn that and get it so that it is out in front a little bit. This one isn't really far out, but it's the first one I tried like that. And so that's another option. It does make it a lot more, well, quite a bit more difficult because you got those corners coming around. And it makes it hard to see where your body is going as you're turning this part. It's hard to see where the body is because you got the square. So what I did was try to round off my blank up a ways, and it was hard to figure exactly how far to go, and then go ahead and turn the head, and it's a lot easier, mainly to see what you're doing down here, but it also, you don't have all those corners coming around. Do you have any questions there?
When you chuck that square, and I assume you would still turn the tenon on it, but
Yeah.
how do you secure it in there so it doesn't fly out? Because
It's going to be between centers.
it's between centers.
Just like this, except that when it's wonky, then you've got the four corners coming over around it at different ways. So you have to be a lot more steady. I wouldn't try that on your first on your first attempt at doing something like this, I'd go ahead and start with a blank like this.
So then would you leave extra on top of that head that you would send off where the dimple from the from that
Yes,
would be?
you're going to see as I turn this that it not only is the dimple there, but also you've got an angle that's going to be at the top of the head that you're going to have to deal with later too, and you'll see that when I turn it.
Okay, is it about 1/4 of an inch? Like how much do you leave?
Well, it partly depends on your the center you use. I use steb centers that are 1/2 inch, and they also have a spring-loaded center, so they don't put near as deep a dimple into it as a normal center.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry that much about it.
But the depth.
And you'll see as we go along here that you probably, as you turn the top of the head, you're not going to have a problem with that, especially if you have the spring-loaded center.
And I know for your boxes in the past, you would laminate with kind of a line diagonally through. Have you done any kind of two-tone or laminated pieces of wood? So that,
I haven't. You could.
Okay. I'm just thinking, in that case, would you try to angle it instead of doing it, flat at 90 degrees?
I'd have to think about it.
Okay.
And right now, I'm a little shaky. I'm not going to think about it. So, okay, so I've got my blank. I've got my tenon on the end. So where am I going to put the head? In this case, I don't know how well you can see the grain. So I want the grain to run back to front. So what I'm going to do, what I've actually already done, is I'm going to pick my back to front, take a ruler, and go where I think my back to front's going to be, and go directly, exactly through the center, and get a line. Then I want my head to be probably a little less than an inch. So then once I have that line, I can come back a little less than an inch and then use my center punch to make a hole there to help me line it up.
What size blank are you using there?
I started out about 2 1/4 square. You can make it just about any size. If you go much under 2 inches with a lot of chucks, you'll end up where you don't have enough for the tenon. So I would say 2 inches is probably about a minimum, and anywhere 2 to 3 inches, 2 1/4 to 3 inches is pretty good. And it depends on what you got in your wood pile too. So, any other questions? I think we're ready to do something here.
What's your most successful variety of wood?
I don't usually mess around with oak because of the open grain and everything, but in these cases, I kind of like the way the grain looks on the back. But I also like the cedar with the two tones, and
That one looked like, was it
I also had,
locust?
I had some pecan that's two-toned also. So the two tones I think look real good too. Even walnut. I've got some walnut ones. They look good. So you can use just about anything. But it's nice to see I think it's nice to see the grain lines or to have the two-tone. But there's, you kind of lose the grain lines on the walnut. Yeah, that one is pecan, and you can see the different colors on that, and you can see the curvature of the lines on that one. And you're more likely to have the curvature if you're using the two-tone because the heartwood is closer to the center. And then if you want to center the head symmetrically, you're going to end up with the grain lines going across more often.
Teresa, when you were doing that taller and you started with a square block, are you drawing then the center line directly to the corner, one of the four corners?
If you want, yeah, that gives you the maximum.
So it's
The
not,
maximum-
so the grain, or are you trying to then, or in which way are you trying to orient the grain when you're trying to cut that blank?
In that case, because you want it out at the corner to get the maximum out in here, you just look at the grain and try to get it to look decent.
Okay.
You're
But if you
kinda-
were
you're-
cutting
you're-
your
you're
own.
limited, yeah, you're limited to what your square is.
Right, but if you were to cut your own square, you would essentially try to have it
You
going
would yeah,
diagonal
if you want the
through.
head here, you would orient it, try to orient it
orient.
so the grain runs that way or this way.
Right, because normally it goes, parallel to the sides if you are buying it from the
Yeah.
store. But
So
if you're cutting your own, you want it to be diagonal.
Yeah,
right?
or you just pick what looks the best at the time.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't have as much control as other times, so. So I'm going to put this between centers. I'm going to use the center on the bottom end. No, I want that there. You notice the the reason I have this backing is because it's a whole lot easier to see your shape as you're turning with a solid background. As opposed to if this is out of here, you're looking at the floor, you're looking at the tool rests, the banjo, everything else around you is in the way. But if you have a solid background, and if you're turning dark wood, you can always put on a white background. But these are real simple to make. It's just a couple long, and I made this one so that I can take it apart real easily. I've just got Velcro, and I've got a dowel to kind of steady it a little, and Velcro to put it on there. This way I can take this apart and leave it back in the locker back here without having the big, a big piece like this. So yeah, I want to keep that. And hopefully I can get this in close enough. Oops, better lock it down.
That's the center, what would be the head?
Yes. Because I'm going to take away all the rest of this to get to the head.
So as far as how far you go, it's just, after doing so many of them, you pretty much figured out as far as how far down you're gonna go before you
Yeah.
put it on the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my voice is loud. So if it's not, believe me, I can make it loud enough.
It's more for the.
Oh, for the people on Zoom? Hey.
So I don't think I may throw some chips out your way though. It's souvenirs. Well,
Not for me.
okay, so you want to turn it fairly fast, but as you speed it up, going to come to a point where you get where, now see, that's pretty good. It's not shaking much at all. So I'd try to go pretty fast.
When you say pretty fast, like what do you got
right now it's about 16, but you could run it up with the size that you could run it up as fast as you want, as fast as you feel comfortable with. Yeah. So I'm just going to start out here on the edge and see, I can kind of see the ghost image. Yeah, you can see the ghost image here. So I'm going to be working back this way, and you can see where I get to solid wood is down in there. Oops. And eventually I'm going to be coming back close to halfway of the blank. So I got a ways to go yet. And also, I want to keep moving my tool rest so I don't have too much overhang. Just like you would do with any other turnings that you're going to do. And always spin it, especially when they're off center like this, and you'd be surprised how often you might hit that. And if it starts bouncing or you don't feel like you're quite in control, take a lighter cut. You got, well, we only got an hour, but at home you've got all day. You don't have to be in a hurry to do this. You can see, oh, I'm already round in here, but you can see this angle here. So the top of my head is, at the very most, is going to be back in here. So you're probably going to lose that dimple just by the time you get it round out here. That's what I was trying to talk about before.
And it looks like you're already making a cove. It's not a straight.
Yes. Yeah.
So it looks like you're making a cove and not a straight cut.
Yeah, I'm going to be shaping the back. At some point, pretty soon, I'm going to start shaping the head, and that's going to be more of a bead going into a cove.
So you said you were going to about the half of the blank. Is that how you decide, you know, lower half is the body, upper half is the neck and the head? Is that, so then what's that height or the length of that blank?
This started out about 4 inches.
4 inches?
If you want to do one on a pedestal, you just add enough to make the pedestal.
Okay.
And now I'm going to, like you said, a cove, so the back is going to be at an angle. But I'm about at the point now where I also want to worry about doing the head. I go back and forth a lot, so You can pretty much hear the difference when I get to where I'm round. Okay. So now I just kind of, you can tell by the ones that pass around, I just do what feels right at the time. And so I've got the back that's got a slope to it. I kind of put my fingers like that to where I think the bottom might be and try to imagine the curve that's going to go down to the bottom part of the body. I think I want a little longer neck, maybe, and maybe a little more slant to the back of the body. While I'm at it. I can see that corner right there. And I can see the slant as I'm coming down. And now for tonight, I think that might be about where I'm going to satisfied with. So I'm going to get the top up here as small as I dare. And also here is where you want to do any sanding, especially on the head.
Teresa, it looks like you have a circle where the grain, it was pointing right up at a little bit more to the side. What is that? I'm just thinking your beaks, they tend to look to the side. Is that where you would put a beak, is where the grain kind of already circles?
A little bit more. Right there where that
Okay.
circle is.
Or it doesn't matter so much?
It's nice if it works out that way, but that might be too far over.
Too
It
far,
might
okay.
crank the head too far.
Okay.
So if you think that might be cranking it too far, go to the other side and put the beak going the other direction. Or, that is again something that you can change on the fly, kind of. as you see what it's doing. And I also like to, I don't know, maybe I better make the neck just a little longer. Whoa! See, I told you, you got to spin it first. And you see it, that's not too bad, but I'll start back here a little bit further, get a clean cut. Okay. This cut real clean anyway, but I might just real quick. This is the only time that the head is going to be somewhere where you can sand it easily. Might turn the speed down a little bit. And you can get in here and do the neck. But as you come back in here, you get to where it's not solid all the way around and it's a little tougher, and you usually will have to, if you have to do much sanding there, you're going to have to do it by hand.
And it looks like you're using a bowl gouge. Technically, it's spindle orientation. Okay, okay, so it's okay to use a spindle gouge even if it's...
Yes, this is spindle orientation, and the spindle gouge will get you into tighter curves than the bowl gouge will. So it is, and when I get down here a little further, I might use a detail gouge also to get in there. But right now I'm going to in a couple of lines on the neck. I just use a little skew for that to start with. And let me see. That's probably a little closer together than I wanted, but and I use Formica to burn in, to do my burning. You can use a wire, but this is real convenient to carry around and everything else, and it's not as dangerous. The wire can get hot, it can break, it can wrap around your finger, it can do some nasty things. So I think this is you can also use any harder wood. You can use ebony or something real hard, anything that will get some friction going and burn the wood is what you're looking for. Okay. I'm going to risk it.
No, I'm saying we can't.
Oh, you couldn't see what I was doing. Sorry. It's just a matter of, you want to start with the groove that I made with the skew, otherwise this will, especially on a curved surface, it'll move all around. But it's just a matter of getting in that groove and putting on enough pressure to see smoke. Oops. And it leaves nice lines in there. So I'm pretty much done with this. So again, now I'm using a detail gouge that's got a real sharp point to it so that I can get in here. And again, it's basically how brave you can be and how much you don't like to sand.
Yeah, that's why I don't use those things, man. I'm worried about getting a kid. Some people are used to throwing bowling off the lane and stuff. No, not me. One other person.
So I'd get it down to this point, and then I'll use a saw to take that off of there. But for right now, I'm going to leave it on there. It's possible I might do something where I want to put it back between centers. So I want to leave that on there. But it's like every time you change, every time you rechuck something, every time you it's going to be a little off. So your best bet is to get everything done that you can right now so that you don't have to come to that. But I can take this off anytime. I'm going to saw it off and then use a Dremel and sandpaper and things to round off that top. Any questions there? You always want to take the tail center out. To save your elbow. Now this is a small Vic mark, and it will actually go down 1 3/4 maybe. So you could get by with a smaller piece, although eventually the duck becomes too small anyway. So that 2 to 2 1/4 to 3 inches is a pretty good thing to shoot for anyway. I'll go back to my spindle gouge. And I'm going to work my way down in here and work my way back toward this corner and give me clearance and everything and get rid of some of this before I get to the delicate part. And this, again, is just a bead. So you can see I'm already getting pretty much the shape I want. The critical part is right up in here. And how big I make the bottom of the duck to sit. You want it big enough that the duck doesn't wobble, but you want a good enough curve that it goes down fairly small. And I can also, if I kind of decide where the bottom's going to be, I can use a parting tool and get rid of some of this too. Just give me room to work more than anything. Any questions? Doing all right? How are we doing on time, huh? Too bad. Yeah, I'm liking it good enough anyway. I'm trying to get rid of tool marks. I am riding the bevel, so that's what's really controlling my tool there.
So Teresa, I assume you were trying to come up to that edge where it was round. Would it help if someone is just beginning or trying, adding a marker, or is it because it's such a small surface that you won't see it when it's rotating? Like if I put a black mark right there, would I know to stop, or am I not going to see it?
You could stop, you might be able to see it, but you might have trouble getting rid of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on what you would use. If you
Well,
used a pencil,
yeah.
a thin pencil mark, you probably wouldn't see if you just put it up in here. But if you just kind of work your way back, and you can feel that, you can see that corner, and you can kind of feel it. And usually at this point, I got just a couple of little tool marks there.
I guess alternatively, can I draw a marker line on the tool rest at kind of perpendicular at where that would be?
Yeah, you could do something like that. And then
Try not to
at
pass
that
that
point,
line.
yeah, line up your tool. I do like to use a shear scrape to get rid of some of the fine lines. And this is a 3/8 bowl gouge that I use for that. It's my favorite tool for doing little things, is this 3/8 bowl gouge. Just fits into everything real nice. And a very light touch, because you don't want to mess up the curve that you had. And I could work on that more, but I don't think I will tonight. Now this bottom part, you can sand real easily now because it's turning around. You just want to make sure that you try to keep the sharp edges here. And sometimes there'll be just a little bit right in front of the head here that you might have to sand by hand, just right up in here, to get rid of that last little mark. Again, if it doesn't quite line up exactly the way you want it, just a little bit of hand sanding will take care of that. And I'd go up through different grits, but we're not going to do that tonight. That'll work. I'm going to go a little bit smaller here. And then I'm going to use a narrow parting tool.
You just go concave it just a little bit. when you're
Yep,
doing
yep. So I'm going to start out in here. And this is where you can adjust the bottom a little bit. You can always come up and make this shorter, make the bottom a little bigger around. But again, I kind of try to sneak up on things. So now I can here again, you can part it all the way off, but I generally don't like to do that. You never know where it might go. You're kind of holding it with that flipping around on you. So I get it down as far as I'm brave, and then I'll go ahead and saw it off. Yeah, so at this point, get rid of that. I can saw this part off. I can use a Dremel to get rid of some of that. You can actually, I probably shouldn't do this, but if you run this slow enough, and I'm going to use my palm sander, now you'd want to get more of that off before you try that, but you can do a little bit of that just to have fun, if nothing else. But. Oh, and the other thing now is when I decide where my beak is going to go. And I use, I have some beaks made up. They're 730 seconds drill. Yeah, 730 seconds. You want to use a brad point so that it won't walk on you. And you just line it up at the angle you want and aim for the center. And I just use a regular drill. I don't know if I want to try this tonight, but I will. Again, we got time, don't we? So I'm going to have it coming off this side. Center line. this in. Maybe a little deeper. And you can adjust that angle a little bit later if you're careful, if you have to. And then you can pick the kind of beak you want and fit it in there. Okay.
Teresa, do you make those?
Yes, I do. I have a couple of smaller chucks that I use that will go down and hold. I make the tenon first, and I fit it to another hole to make sure I get it the right size. And then I've got a chuck that will go down and actually hold that. And it takes more time to make the tenon than it does to do any of the rest of that. It's really quick. So now I have to deal with that again. A Dremel tool or other sanders will get in there and take care of that. And again, the Dremel tool and then palm sanding. Or I might use this type of sander. It helps. But you have to get it smaller than that to begin with. But anyway, that basically is it. I tend to use either butcher block oil or this, which is an orange, beeswax and orange oil. You can get this at Menards or anywhere. And the basic reason I use
That's the one
this,
I was talking about.
okay, is to, it'll pop the grain a little bit, and it'll give a little protection from fingerprints and things like that, but it dries almost instantly. You don't have to mess with it. You put it on with a paper towel, and you've got enough room to do some sign on the bottom and date it or whatever you want. But basically that's it. Any questions? No, they don't take that long.
You're gonna make one of those for all the members?
I've got family to take care of first. It's Christmas time and I have family, so.
Come on Mondays and show you how to make your own.
Yeah, there you go.
You don't have
I'll tell you.
Monday, she just showed you how to make it.
Come to the Christmas party and I'll put one in a raffle. We can raffle one off.
Where do you get your information?
Menards. Menards, it's Formica samples for countertops. Yep, they're free. I did. I took a handful the other day because we ran out of them back here.
Well, thank you, Teresa. That was wonderful. Thank you.